Hi writers, this is Alyssa Hollingsworth. I'm the author of the 11th Trade and the upcoming book, The Invisible Boy. In a previous video, we talked about one of my insane ways of plotting, which is to create a character sheet that has lots of information about the character. So today I want to talk about how to organize that information and put it in your noveling journal. So first of all, noveling journal, very important. I learned this method from David Almond, who's a UK writer, and his are just beautiful and eccentric and everything you'd want in an author journal. Mine are a bit more crazy structured and just crazy. What I want you to know before you jump into this is that I am a plotter 1000%. I also have a lot of methods that I like to use, and I have been called intimidatingly organized by my literary agent. So this is not for the faint of heart. And with all writing advice, you should just take what works for you. If I start talking about this and it gets overwhelming, don't pay attention. If some of what I talk about sounds cool and you want to try it, that's awesome. Just take what is helpful and don't feel any pressure because there's no reason to. So one of the first things that I like to do is I like to know the name of my character. My method for picking names is pretty straightforward, I think. I just go and I look at behindthename.com, which is my favorite, and I scroll through, and normally I'll have an idea of the general feel I want the name to have, like if it needs to sound Welsh or English or old-timey, or if it doesn't matter. I kind of have an idea of where I want to start, and so I'll start just scrolling. Sometimes I'll search names by meaning if I know that there's something important to my character and I want to be a little bit cliche, but like witty cliche, sly cliche, so that maybe my readers won't catch on. For this imaginary project that we're going to be talking about, I am making a story that's a retelling of The Maiden with No Hands, which is a Grimm's fairy tale. As I was going through lists of names, my eye caught on Agnes. That's a nickname for Agnes. That is Nest. And I really liked the sound of that. That immediately made me think of a character, and her face just kind of popped into my head. So the first thing I did was I scrolled through, found a name. I like the name Nest. That sounds cool. Then I like to find a cast picture. And sometimes these two are interchangeable depending on my muse. But I keep a collection of headshots and photos on my Pinterest board, and I like to just scroll through and see who jumps out to me. And that's kind of what happened with my girl Nest, where I came across a couple of faces that kind of seemed like what I was thinking, and then zeroed in on the one that really felt like a good fit. I also like to check actresses and actors' ages because I'm terrible at telling how old someone is. So knowing that I am terrible at ages, I like to Google and just make sure that we're kind of in a 5-year-ish range of what the character is supposed to be aged, and then I let it go from there because Hollywood lies about ages too, so it's fine. I also like to make things a little bit extra fancy by picking a font that I use for my character sheet. And I'm really chill about this in that I just go to dafont.com, I scroll through, I find a font that I like, and then they have a thing where you can preview whatever text you want. So I put in like name Nest and then see if I like how that looks. If I do, good, great. So now I'm gonna take you over to my desk and we're gonna see how I actually lay it all out and put it all together. This is basically what we're going to make, and it is a character analysis thing, and I will also be talking in a different video about how to fill this out, all the things that I recommend that you put on your sheet. Yeah, so this is the end product. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so this is my journal that I'm going to use to create the character sheet. Supplies that I need are just tape, some pretty pens and pencil if you like to kind of outline things, scissors, a spare piece of paper that can be just plain printer paper. This time I'm using scrapbook paper just for something different. Your headshot for your character. A ruler can be useful, not necessary, but useful. So now we're gonna go at it. as I make my rectangles that I will use to put in character information, I obviously have a very difficult time drawing lines, so I am using a little reference thing. And you'll need 4 of these all together. I like to cut them all out at once. So one thing I like to do before I tape everything down is I like to go ahead and put the labels that I'm going to fill in later. And ordinarily, if I was doing this myself, what I would probably do is actually go ahead and fill out everything completely. But for the purposes of this video, I want to just fill out the blank things, and then we'll put it all together, and then we'll actually talk through why I like to use certain things on my character sheets in my other video. Let's do it. On the top left, you're going to put character voice. Sometimes when I'm getting really fancy, I like to use a bold pen or a different colored pen for these headers or titles. Today we're just going easy. Under character voice, I like to put similar characters or people. On the flip side of this one, so when you flip it like so that you're not writing upside down. And on the flip side, I like to put appearance and dress. All right, over here we'll put values and hates. On the flip side of that, we're gonna have favorite place, favorite pastime, and favorite possession. On the bottom, we're gonna do plot question and narrative question. Flip that over, it'll be plot answer and narrative answer. Last one, we're going to have log line there, and then on the flip side, we will have arc line. So we have all these squares, which will have details about the character themselves. And again, normally if I was doing this for a real project, I would go ahead and fill out all of these things before I tape it down, just because it's easier to write on. But for the purposes of today, we're going to go ahead and tape them down. So the way I like to tape the squares down, I take a piece of tape, make sure I'm giving myself a lot of room, and go ahead and just slide it on down here, press it down, and then I flip it. I do the same thing here, and that way there's no fold. It's easy to go flop, 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 flop. And this is why I like to write on the squares before I tape them, because you can see that this tape is going to be taking up part of the paper, and depending on what pen I'm using, that could lead to smearing. So it's just easier if you do that afterwards. But we're making a template, so we're not going to pay attention to that. So the fun thing about these flaps is that it gives you extra space beneath each one. So I also like to put little categories in here. So let's see, I do backstory over under the first one. Under my second one, I like to say the lie character leaves. Under log line, I like to do Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. This one, I normally just leave it blank. So if there's something else that you want to know about your character, that's a great place to add that. So we've got our cards. Let's go ahead and fill out the name information and then this little square of information here. I really admire people who can do hand lettering. I have not had the patience to learn yet, so I cheat. Find a font on DA font that I like, and then I just kind of copy it as if I'm sketching something. So for this one, I'm using Dealova font, and I'm just copying it right off of my screen. And it's not gonna be perfect, but you know what? It'll look fancy, and it will make me feel fancy. So, okay, so now that we have her name, we're gonna go ahead and fill in the blanks in this part. Age, birthday, race, Myers-Briggs, sorting, which is my short word for Harry Potter house. One word, story role, wants, needs, fears. And you know what? I didn't leave myself quite enough room for my conceal statement, which I like to put here. So I'm going to actually use that blank space and say what she must conceal. Okay, so there you have it. We have our character sheet for my made-up story work in progress and my main character Nest. all of these blanks are ready to be filled in with the information we've already gone over in the other video. If you haven't watched that one yet, go ahead and give it a click now. Let me know if you liked this video by giving it a thumbs up or leaving a comment below. I'm still relatively new to this YouTube game, so I appreciate any feedback. I always like to know when one of my eccentric methods has helped another eccentric soul find their use and be productive. Let me know how it worked for you, and I will see you around. Bye!